All right, welcome back to Morning Express, and our person of interest this morning is Jim Nyamu, Executive Director of Elephant Neighbors Center here in Kenya. And of course, Jim Nyamu joins us in the wake of that decision by China to ban all trade of ivory products in their country. Remember, China is the largest market of ivory products in the world, and so that decision to ban the sale of ivory products is a move that has come as a best New Year's gift to many conservationists in the world, and especially here in Kenya. Jim Nyamu, many thanks for joining us here in studio.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jim. All right, so an especially Happy New Year for you as the Executive Director of Elephant Neighbors Kenya. That decision by China, how did you receive it?
Yeah, that's a decision that we've been waiting for a couple of years. However, the Chinese have been doing some good work in between, and this started in 2013 when the United States declared to destroy 6 tons of ivory, and I actually witnessed this in the US. Destroying the ivory is one thing, and this is something that we have to celebrate that, because we're talking of the consumer and the producer and the middleman. However, we as Kenyans, we are just producers here. We have no idea why they're stopping this. And you see, it's a market issue here. So they are destroying what is in the market. But as in Kenyans here in Tanzania and other countries, we continue killing elephants. So very soon we might have another country now emerging to begin buying this. And you're looking at the African Elephant Database and also the ETIAs, the Elephant Trade Information System. America is the second leading consumer. Europe is that. So if the first country has taken over, they're out of the race, we might have maybe the second country taking the first chance. So it is something to celebrate. Again, it's something to monitor and be able to see who is coming in. And also very importantly, for us as Kenyans here, we just lost 2 rhinos like a day ago. We need to keep on talking this. We need to keep on letting our people. There is no market. There is no value on ivory. There is no value on rhino horns. They are better placed on the animals. Yeah.
And you've been especially involved in spreading the anti-poaching message across the world. You've done about, is it 5,000 miles walking across East Africa, spreading that message. And I understand you've also had walks in the US as well. Talk to us about what inspires you to do that.
Thank you so much. One, I'm a trained research scientist and specialize on elephants, which I started working in KWS back 1998 to 2004 before joining the African Conservation Center, again on the cross-border issues on elephants. And this was working in Tanzania and few countries before I was given some responsibility by the African Elephant Database to support by feeding the data. And this was cruising across almost 21 countries. And looking at what was happening, we're talking of between 2007, 8, 9, and 10, the population of elephants from countries like Eritrea, Chad, many countries start coming down. And that's when I resigned and founded the Elephant Neighbor Center, an institution that I felt I needed to do something different from other people. And looking at most of the people who are working in Kenya here, they're actually foreigners, white people. Where do we have the Kenyans, where do we have Africans to begin portraying themselves in the conservation issues? And I started working, and I didn't have anything in the way, and actually people called me a useless person.
Really?
And I looked at it, a useless person uses less resources. So I used what I had, and was my mouth and my feet to begin working. My first walk was Mombasa, Nairobi.
How long ago was that?
That was 2013, February. It took me 14 days. It was a silent walk though, because it was during the election year like this year. However, I was able to make several impact here and there. And then the same year, I went to the US and I walked in 9 states, from Massachusetts all the way to Washington, D.C. And by pushing Americans through the Obama task force, through the US Fish and Wildlife, they accepted the bid to destroy the 6 tons of ivory, pushed as the second leading consumer on ivory. When I came back here, the 2014, I started another walk from Meru town to Meru Park. And I had just finished another walk before from Masai Mara all the way to Marsabit. This is where the first lady of the Republic joined me for the first time in Nyeri and give us a bit of visibility. I walked from Shiba Hills to Lamu the same year. That was about 500 kilometers in 25 days. Then I came back and did another walk from Nanyuki, Nyeri, Nyahururu, Jabine before walking from Nyeri to Dakaine. Then 2015 I did a walk from Emari, Loitoktok, Taveta, all the way to Voi through those areas. And then the same year I did another walk from Kirigoris to Masai Mara, all the way to Loita. Last year was when I did the longest one, which was from Nairobi to Moshi, all the way to Tanga, Dar es Salaam, Morogoro, Dodoma, all the way to Mwanza, then Mutukura, the border of Uganda and Tanzania, before walking to Fort Portal, Entebbe, Kampala, Busia, then Kisumu, Kakamega, Eldoret, Nakuru, Nairobi, which took me about 126 days.
Wow. And I understand just that one trip is about 3,200 kilometers, collectively like about 7,000, 8,000 kilometers?
It was 3,490 kilometers, this one. So that was about, the total is 9,840 kilometers.
Now, that's not easy. And, you know, talking of all the walks you've mentioned, it's about 10 walks in total since you began this in 2013. It's not easy to walk that long a distance. What impact do you usually make? Do you receive any challenges during these walks?
Thank you so much. Yeah, challenges of course are there. One of them is which some of them are actually outweighing some of those challenges. One, there was a lot of doubts that do we walk? I don't have a vehicle myself, so which vehicle am I using? Maybe I use public means in my shot. And the other thing is planning of these walks is not easy. I have to look at where I would sleep. I have public address system. I have camping equipment. I have a support team. So I need support to support my team. One, we've been hiring vehicle, like we're talking of about 10,000 shillings per day, and then paying my 4 people, and then carrying this equipment, convincing the government, because when you are walking on the road, you have to block the road. That means you need the county commissioner, you need the police, you need the traffic, and some of these traffic officers do not understand why they need to block the road for somebody to walk.
Right.
And then making this noise. You know, in every town, we don't just walk. In every town, we stop. With the support of the county commissioner and the DCs and the chiefs, we are able to have the audience who listen to us and they ask questions. The main challenge here is that there is a big resistance from the community. People don't like and don't want wildlife. And this is simply because of we're talking of there is no compensation. Right. And the same community have lost their wildlife forever. Like I remember my first walk, Mombasa, Nairobi, I was even chased away, and even in Meru, because people think that I'm a KWS person. And what I've learned is people, generally, even across East Africa, people don't like the wildlife agencies because they have never understood what is wildlife conservation. Right. How can they benefit from wildlife? The other challenge, of course, is the blisters. Like for the last walk I did, I didn't have more blisters, but my health was somehow deteriorated because of the pollution. Tanzania and Uganda, they use old vehicles, and these old vehicles are emitting too much gas, too much pollution along the way. So they was having a lot of headache because you're walking on the road and vehicles are passing every day. And then the authorities, you know, you find Tanzanians are not happy about us walking there. But I must appreciate the support from the interior government through the Ministry of Interior. They were able to unlock all those things and support us because our message was very clear. It's just to pass there and to raise awareness. Generally, those are some of the challenges. But of course, like when you walk into an area, like when I was almost reaching Nairobi, we lost 2 rhinos when I was in that place. Such information, such messages frustrate me. I remember again I was walking in Marar and in Mugi Ranch. The day I arrived there, we lost a rhino and an elephant. The same case in Mount Kenya, in Voi. Those are some of the things. But again, they remind me why we need to press on and give the message to the people.
Now, I have one of our viewers here asking, are you ever afraid of being attacked in the different communities you visit?
Of course, I have a basic training on those issues of security. And I also don't take a chance of going to areas where I'm not sure. That's why we work closely with the county commissioner and also KWS, because they have to plan ahead of me where will I pass. And also in my team, I have security team that advise us, this area is not very good and this area is not good. But potentially, I fear people more than animals because people, you know, we are dealing with the people who might think that we are telling them not to, I have no power to arrest myself, but I have the power to tell you not to kill elephants. So yes, we don't go everywhere. Actually, we come in police stations. Yeah.
All right, for security. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that in the U.S., you know, and it's in Kenya and in East Africa, you receive quite a bit of resistance because people don't understand what wildlife conservation is. But you've also done this work in the U.S. How would you compare the reception in the two areas?
We're talking of one here. There is the ignorance, what I would call the perpetual attitude. Basically, actually, is the attitude. Today, if somebody see a hyena passing, the reaction of people, some want to remove their shoes and kill. There is that spirit of killing, and we don't want this animal.
Right.
But this is Sunday school teaching, how we were taught in the beginning, that the wildlife belongs once. They belong to the government that is somewhere. We don't see the government. Then you go to the US. Those people, they think that Africans, we are killing animals. I remember I had a resistance in, that must be in Connecticut. I've met a very old couple, and they didn't want to hear me anymore. And they were like, you should be walking in Zimbabwe where people are killing elephants. Why are you walking in America? And discussing them, and you know, you have to listen to them first. I'm a young man here, these old people, to convince them, and then to check with them internet through the stuff, the elephant trade information system.
Right.
And we found America is the second leading consumer. So I begin taking them slowly by slowly. One, why would America care? America should care because all the safaris, they call them the safaris, they visit in Africa, they all come to see wildlife. They don't come to see people, they don't come to see homes, they come to see wildlife. So they should care because all their safaris, they come here. The other thing is that they are young kids in schools, in their education. ABCD. E is for elephants. And that's something that I didn't know it has a lot of impact. I remember attending several kindergartens, kids, telling them about the E, and they were like, what? So they were like, if we don't have elephants, we'll have E for extinction. And the other thing was that why America should care, because you are the second leading consumer of ivory in the world. And before I left, so many states, I'm happy to hear some state, even Ohio, and another state, Massachusetts, you know, Rhode Island, New Jersey, I think was the last one, to have their own policy as a state.
Right.
So you find out of the 51 states, they are now coming up, about 30 have come together, and they are still pushing to ensure, I hope with the new president, they're going to continue with the same spirit to ensure that America is out of that hook of being the targeted. You know, look at the Houstons, look at the Pennsylvania, look at the Niagara Falls, those airports. That's where there is information. That's where the trade and the trafficking is happening. And then you go to Europe, it's the same thing. If you go to Netherlands, you find one big elephant in the zoo, Brijop Zoo, which was again was arrested from South Africa, and it is in the zoo. Yeah. So basically, to answer your question, the world is the same. People don't like wildlife because, one, they don't understand how they should benefit. And you know the values of wildlife, we're talking of three values. One of them is economic value. We're talking of in Kenya, 12% of our GDP comes from tourism. But there is nobody who disseminates this information. Right. You know, there is what we say, but there is what people don't understand. The other thing we're talking about, the ecological values. You know, elephants defecate 17 times per day. They go to the bathroom 17 times a day. I did not know that. Yeah. And per defecation, they defecate 13 balls. And out of that, 20% of their bodies are undigested. That means they help in the seed dispersal. Right. That's ecological values. And they also change the systems. Like Abu said, it used to be thick forest. They change from the close canopy to savanna, allow other species comes. But this information is only for scientists to learn this. The last one is aesthetical value. What is this that to take somebody from the US to pay tickets to come in Amboseli and Masai Mara and see wildlife and go back and leave those animals there? There is that aesthetical value. This is what I feel we need to disseminate this to the people. My first work, I remember I was received by a county commissioner in Voi, who is my personal friend. And he told me we are wasting our time. Why do you walk all the way? I had many fresh blisters. He told me in Savo by then, sorry, he thought we had 1 million elephants. So only to realize that we only had 11,000 elephants.
Wow.
So from that time he learned that Savo is the largest, that has 11,000 elephants, that used to accommodate 45,000 elephants, but there is no elephants at the moment. So what is very important is basically basic information.
And before we get to questions, because viewers have so many questions on what your family does when you're away for 126 days, we'll get to that. But one viewer is asking, what exactly does Elephants Neighbors Center do?
Very good. We are very young, I would say so. We were born in 2013, I would say so. And what we are doing, we have 2 programs. One of them is conservation and research. Because we want to look at the 70% of the wildlife in this country, they are outside the protected area. And I'll give you an example of Laikipia, Samburu. There is no park there. And people should not even ask KWS in Laikipia, Samburu to ask KWS to support them. The wildlife is not in the KWS, it's not in the government land, it's in the people's land. The same case in Masai Mara, and also part of Abuseri and Savo. So what we want to do is try and work with the communities there, in the sense, establish what you call the para-ecologist. I want to train young Kenyans who comes from college. You don't have to be employed. You can help, first of all, do data correction, understand why do we have elephants here, why do we have a hyena here, why do we live with animals? Because the 70% of the animals outside the park, they will never go back to the park. The other one, what you're doing is a conservation and education program. And what I'm doing is I'm implementing an activity in that. This is now education through walking, and this is why I bought the slogan, "Ivory belongs to elephants."
Right.
So it is an activity within the conservation and education program. We started a pilot project in Savo, in Taveta, education program, whereby we want to bring all people together, not only just education. We're looking at our young people, they are more to sports, so we need to think about the sport and conservation, because we want to distract their attention. Look at what is happening in Mara. Young people are being involved in hunting, or what you would call in snaring animals. How do you put their attention? Basically, somebody or human being are supposed to be given some responsibilities to do. If you keep them idle, they then go to the bad thing. So those are 2 things that we are doing, and we are very, very happy to see the support that we received from even the First Lady by working with us, and by giving us the stamp that you are doing the right thing. Our Minister of the CS of Environment, Professor Judy, and also even the Interior Ministry, and other RINE institutions and other NGOs like IFO, Giraffe Center, or the AFU Giraffe Center, talking about giraffes that are also becoming they are endangered in this world. So we're working closely with all those institutions, and we want to see how do we don't want to have so many animals here if our people don't understand how to live with them.
Right, we are speaking to Jim Nyamu, the founder and executive director of Elephant Neighbors Center here in Kenya. Do interact with us. Ask him any question under the hashtag Morning Express KTN. You can also tweet me directly at Michelle Ngele, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya as well. I see some of your comments coming through. Hamilton Kiliru says, I like today's person of interest. He is doing a commendable job with the elephants. I do keep your views coming in. But another viewer is asking, what do you do? I mean, what does your family do when you're gone for so long on these walks? You've done 10 walks so far. Your most recent was 126 days.
People are busy in their lives. You know, even me, I'm working, you know. People have been asking this question. You know, everyone is busy. If you wake up in the morning, you go to your business, you go to whatever you are doing.
And you come back at the end of the day.
And I come back and I begin talking to people. You know, I'm involved in so many discussions in the Twitter, in the social media. We keep on telling everyone, and everyone is busy, I would say so. And I have no resistance from anybody. Just before Christmas, we had a big meeting with my family. What I mean in my family is extended family, everybody who is called by us.
Is there wife, children?
Everyone, including my dad, my mom, my brother. I needed them to understand because they don't understand what I do. To understand them that when you don't see me here, Because there is this aspect that I raise a lot of money. I don't raise money, I raise the awareness. I pay people, I spend a lot of money.
Right.
So it is this message that I needed to pass, because even Jesus started in his home. So if you do not understand, the world will not understand me. So what I have seen is that if the people that surround you don't understand this, the other world will not understand what you're doing.
But were they always this understanding?
I'm happy that at least my wife understands what I do, and she understands. Yes, this that I'm really in a war here, and the only thing to do is just to hide whatever she hides herself and do what she's doing, and ensure that I come back home safely.
What about your children? Growing up with them, helping them with their homework, or are they grown now?
Yeah. They I would say they're happy, and one thing that I've learned from them is that anytime I'm out walking, they are very happy, because they see me and they talk stories that Daddy is walking, he's saving elephants. And the only thing they miss is that they don't see me every day.
Right.
And there will be always somebody to compliment what I do in terms of homeworks and other things. And we must appreciate the teachers. Like I have one special teacher who have to take care of my son when I'm out, by ensuring that he need that special care, like if he's unwell, boys and issues they might have, things that they might not tell their mother, and I'm happy about that.
So does that affect you in any way as a parent, being away from your family, away from your children sometimes, especially when things get hard in the regions that you're visiting? Yeah,
I remember when I was in Mwanza, I really missed my family, and I work with the kids, and you would see me holding kids, some of my photos, because I'm remembering where are these people. Sometimes I'm going through so much, and I'm like, is my daughter understanding what I'm going through? Yeah, I feel so, but I think the cause is more than it's more than the other things, because that thing is come. I'm very emotional. That thing comes, and the people I am with, they realize that if you see him holding kids, he's at home now. They distract me and take the kids away, and we continue working.
Right.
So it comes, and then. But of course now with phones, and you can call home, and you can do video chatting and all these things. But it is something that I would say has helped me even to learn other people what they're doing. Like in Tanzania, I fell in love with the Tanzanians, mostly in the central Tanzania, Dodoma, all the way before even going to Uganda, because kids there, they are so lovely, and but the issue is, they don't want animals. Right. They don't like animals. Right. You ask them, what do you see if you see a body? Yeah, just kill it. This is what we need to change from to tell our kids. But you can only tell them if you know the purpose.
And of course, you've had rather good moments, since you began this. You just mentioned that when you began, people called you useless, and called your campaign useless. But you're now having walks with the First Lady. You're now having, the top stakeholders in, wildlife and tourism industry supporting you with this. How does that feel as an individual? Yeah,
it's quite encouraging, I would say so, because when I started the work, you can imagine when my first person who flagged me off in Mombasa was a police officer. I had asked KWS to support me, and they didn't see the reason why. So it really moved me. I became a bad omen. But when I saw the police, and that's why I respect the police officers today. So when I reached Nairobi, again, the reception wasn't very encouraging. But from that time, and I'm happy, for a man to live, he must see a man. I think people have seen, as you say, the top heavy stakeholders.
Right.
And I'm very happy when I have them. I'm happy because the message is heard well, like from the media perspectives. Media will only comes, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect, they comes depending on the people who are there. You might hear there is one madman walking. Like I passed here and you never noticed when I was going to Kitengela. Yeah? So there is one madman walking. But if there is another person who is slightly normal, people will come and see. What I mean is that the presence of the First Lady, the presence of our minister and the KWS directors, and also even the people like DPP and others, like even the interior ministers, have also helped me to pass this message. Right. They are, in fact, they have been my bridge or my stepping, because I'm stepping on them to pass the message. Then back to the US, whereby the senators Senator Barrett, who have consistently buying my shoes, it also gives me a visibility in the US. If I land in the US, I'm different from how I am. In fact, they are recognized there than here. They keep giving me audience to talk to people. But I know this is why. We are still struggling to learn. And I'm happy that my 10th walk now is different from when I did my second walk. There is now message passing in. But again, the media have come strongly, and I would say so. They escorted me up to Namanga.
Right.
And they came to fight me again in Busia. And in every county, we were passing message, even here, and I can mention such names of Alimanzu, who would call and ask, are you okay? And so that means you feel there are people back home who own you and are happy by what you are passing. Even when I was working in the US, Lali Mado of NTV, he would call and he would even do Skype interviews.
Right.
That means back home, people are following up. I always say, these elephants, they are for all of us. And we have to come together. And we are looking at elephants, but we're bringing all the species they are in.
And let's talk about how you amass your numbers when you carry out these walks, because normally when you carry out a campaign on social media, you have massive support. You'll have thousands of retweets, thousands of likes, but when it gets to the ground, the thousands are not reflected. You know, so do you have any trouble amassing masses to support you?
Yeah, of course. You know, for the last 3 years, I've been depending on the volunteers. You know, I'm not raising money, so you can imagine, like the East African Walk, where we're hiring vehicles, and I also hired people to work with me, from technical person, communication team. You know, the campaign after the walk, that's when the works begins. Since October, I've been very busy. You know, messages and also interviews and all these things. Yes, there is a challenge, but when I'm walking, I have like 3 people working with me on communication. Then I have others, one in Mombasa, the other one in the US. If I miss anything in the social media, they'll be able to, you know, give people proper information.
Right.
But it is too much. You know, you can imagine now, I am being forced to go with the social media, Twitter, you know, from the Twitter to Instagram, from Instagram, like my Facebook, we keep on changing many things to the groups, to the page, to my personal. There is a lot, and this tells me, initially, when I used to post something, I would probably have about maybe 100 reactions. Today, if I post something, I probably have about 1,000 plus.
Right.
That is emotion. That's what you would call the impression that there are people following you, and there are people who are happy, and there are people responding. Like I did a story about human-wildlife conflict. There are so many reactions. People need to know this issue, how to mitigate, how to reduce the issues of human-wildlife. But I would say so, yes, with the phones, I don't do tweet when I'm walking. I have somebody in the car doing that. But in the evening, some might require my attention. So again, I will have to spend like about 1 hour or 2 to do that.
And of course, you spend a considerable amount of your time working with the Elephants Neighbors Center, but you say you don't raise money out of these campaigns. In fact, you have to pay people, you know, and hire cars and pay people to work with you. So how do you sustain yourself in life?
Thank you. What we do, we do a proposal like ahead of time. Like now I'm preparing for the walk from Nairobi to Marsabit.
Right.
I've looked at the budget. And the budget means that we have to hire a vehicle. We have to hire like 4 communication people. I already have my equipment. I lost one of my laptop broke down. I need to repair. So you look at the budget ahead. Then you ask some institutions, like those ones that are working along that route. Like the First Lady's office supported us. Our ministry supported us. They can identify a certain budget and say, we will take care of the fuel of the vehicle. We will take care of IFO. It's our International Fund for Animal Welfare. A few giraffe center, they picked items of communication and supported me to support my communication team, not by buying gadget, by supporting them, you know. So this is what sustains us. And of course, I have friends in the US who would send as more as $5, $10, $100, like that.
Right.
And I feel that is good because this is different from what I have learned when I went to the States. There are many, many, many people here, and I would say this with a lot of love. We have so many people who we hold with a lot of respect in this country. as true conservationists, but they are not felt here. They are only felt in the US because they go and talk, and they talk with a lot of emotions. I think, to me, we will not be able to win the conservation challenges if we bring emotions. We must bring the reality. We must tell people, like I did my work in Murang'a, and I had a meeting with some members of parliament, and I mentioned that we are losing so many hyenas in Abadeas, and one of them asked me, for heaven's sake, why do we need hyenas? So you can imagine a member of parliament, in the parliament, he has no reason why we have the value of hyena. We have to go back to the basic, tell them hyenas control diseases. Not by sending emotions, by having that hyena and you sleep on the dead hyena. People in America and other places, yes, they are being ruled by emotions. But as here, we don't care over dead animals. We need to take the message to them and let them, because I believe the change must be with us here.
And you've also had significant service for the Kenya Wildlife Service, about 10 years or so, working with KWS. Now, you mentioned earlier that Tsavo National Park had a capacity of 45,000 elephants, currently standing at 11,000. And, you know, with the work that you're doing, with the work that China is doing, banning ivory trade, what significant changes are we likely to see? Because the number has already declined. You know, elephants' gestation period is what, 2 years? You know, so when until we see that number restored?
It is very unfortunate that conservation in this country is not prioritized. If you look at the MDGs, Millennium Development Goal, conservation is nowhere. And this is why you see, even before you ask, the issues of standard gauge railway, the issues of Kenya in Naivasha, conservation is nowhere. And people view like parks are wasteland. So if you want to do anything, parks are open for anything. Looking at the Tsavo is basically our learning lesson. In 1979, Kenya was hosting 167,000 elephants. About 1989, Kenya was left only with 16,000 elephants, and Tsavo was left with 8,000 elephants. You look at other places like Aboseri, which has consistently remaining with about 1,000 elephants. Aberdare is about 1,900. Masai Mara is about 3,000 elephants. And this population continue declining every day. And what causes the declining of animals is, one, not even poaching. In fact, we are talking about 5 years ago, poaching was number 3, 4 challenges. One of them is basically the habitat loss. You've seen what has happened in Aboseri. We've lost Aboseri as an ecosystem. Because every Tom, Dick and Harry, we are in Aboseri buying piece of land, changing land use. Kitegela is already something different. We are now in Mara now. This is what is happening. So the land use changes. And what comes out of that is human-wildlife conflict. People begin, animals begin cooperating, and then community begin deteriorating, spearing, you know, killing them, because they don't want, they call the animals nuisance. So what has come with now with the infrastructure development? So many animals have been displaced in Aboseri and Masai Mara. Sorry, in Tsavo, and I'm sure you've seen these, whereby, because when the standard gauge railway came, it calls for even the electric posts to be moved. We lost so many, I think over 15 elephants through. They were electrocuted because the elephants are prayerful. When they saw those hanging wires, they started praying around. We had cases. I have those images. So those are animals that were died. Nobody was, how do you call that? In any poacher who killed an elephant and those wires, KPLC would have been.
Because there's no difference. It's the same crime.
Exactly. But nobody talked about this. Why I say the priority is again different. The other thing is that when the standard gauge, it calls for the pipeline again to be moved from their area. When those pipelines were being moved, some of the young babies were not able to come over those. They were displaced. In fact, we had so many cases of those elephants that were dead there. Thank God to Shedrick, who came and rescued some of those babies. We're only talking of the specific species. If you look at other species, like even the giraffes, even buffaloes, and other species, you also find issues there. We're talking of about 300 people in the park constructing the railway. These people, some of them are not very good. When I was working, when those Chinese were constructing Taveta Road, I had those people and some of the Kenyans, imagine Kenyans, are colluding with they are hunting animals and then they are taking them to the doorsteps of the Chinese to buy. So 300 people would even woo the Chinese to buy some of these animals.
Right.
So I would not even think of any more development in our parks. If you go today in Naivasha Hell's Gate, the Jodhamo, Kenya Jim, they are inside. So there is big smoke coming there. The animals are highly adaptable, so they are running out. The human-wildlife conflict, if you go to Karagita, those areas, Kogoni, there is a lot of bushmeat. Because animals are coming closer to people, they are actually looking for rescue to people. But when they come closer to us, we slaughter them, we pack them, and we sell them.
Yeah, and also let's talk about the Nairobi National Park. This is a park that makes Nairobi one of the most unique cities in the world. You know, no other city has a national park right in the middle of the city, but now we have the SGR, and we also have several housing settlements in the middle, smack in the middle of the Nairobi National Park. Already we've had our wildlife retreat to one corner, sort of staying away from the human settlement. But when the government was speaking about the SGR, they said an environment assessment was done, there was enough consultation with environment stakeholders, and it was decided that it's safe for the SGR to pass through the park. What are your thoughts on that kind of consultation? Was it properly done?
You know, if you look at the original plan of the Nairobi, of the Standard Gauge Route, was to reach up to the Syokimau. And that was the plan was done. And if you look at it, it was not touching Nairobi Park anymore. But this phase 2 is what has come after as an afterthought. And actually the people who advise our president must feel that they have done something wrong to this country. You know, because they have to advise him accordingly. Because where the terminal was heading, it was not touching either Nairobi Park or even affecting the livelihood. But now they want the phase 2. Where would it pass? Actually, potentially, that if it was to continue, would have passed through where the other lady was passing, and this is through Kibera. But do you want to displace people in Kibera? Of course, no. So what is the alternative to the Nairobi Park? Because the animals have no votes. This is very unfortunate if we are going to compare our wildlife and the votes. We need the proper governance in this country. And so the people who I have issue with are the engineers. Because the engineers have gone to school and they should look at the way. And looking at what they want to do by having the railway over the park. And then telling people that the tourists will see the animal. That railway, that train will be using 360 speed. Will you be able to see anything there?
Right.
So don't cheat people that you'll be seeing animals there. So there is an alternative. And I think if we love conservation, Nairobi Park is not for Kenyans. It is a biosphere. It's actually under the maps of UNESCO. It is not something that Kenyans, we can say it is ours for already. It is an icon for the world. And by having a railway there, we are even actually telling the world that we are not true conservationists. Just 3 years ago, we were telling Tanzanians not to build the road through Serengeti, and they actually stopped. They respected us. Now, what are we going to tell them?
We went and did the same thing.
The same thing. Kenyans have been known. They are vocal. One of them, I'm here, one of them. We have other people who have been in the cities, strong people, talk about conservation in Kenya. If we give out Nairobi Park, I'm very sorry that it is happening. And this is a very bad legacy we are living here. And I remember our president, when he said, 2013, and he said that Kenya is going to be the light of Africa when it comes to conservation. Now, are we going to do that? Just last year, we came in the world map. President have destroyed 105 tons of ivory and 1,000 tons of rhino. Just another year, the same park where we did this, there is a railway passing in. Where are we going?
Those are two contradicting messages.
So and I'm very happy that he has listened at some point. And he's looking forward to see, to be advised on the way forward. And the engineers, there is a way they can take that railway back and then use the southern part of Nairobi Park, go to the Gong, those other areas. We conservationists, one of them, we actually accommodate and we are happy with the transport industry. We don't just oppose the railway. Railway line and conservation are two things, but they cannot just be overriding one another. If they have to override, we have to look about ways of managing that. Nairobi Park has just celebrated 70 years. If you listen to the stories of Nairobi here, those 70 years, you'd be worried whether the Nairobi Park we will be able to see another 50 years.
And of course, also retrogressing the gains of the likes like Wangari Maathai, who are very active in championing for environment conservation. But I'm also glad you mentioned that you were part of the delegation that went for the scientist conference. That was in Johannesburg, I believe. And in that conference, they did mention that rhinos now are the most endangered species in the country. And you mentioned just the other day, when you came back from your walk, 2 rhinos had already been killed. Talk about the overall conservation of animals such as the rhinos, having worked with KWS. How is that?
Okay, thank you. I was not in the CITES. That time I was still working. I remember I was when the CITES was happening, I was in that part of Kitenge, Kisumu, but I was in touch with the minister and other people. You know, if you look at this country, we are talking of black rhinos and white rhinos, which most Kenyans cannot differentiate because they don't visit the park.
Right.
But just leave when you hear the lion has walked out of Nairobi Park, everybody comes out. But we don't go to see them. So we must go and see these animals. They're beautiful animals and understand the ecology and all these things. And the rhinos in this country, we are talking of about 1,200 rhinos remaining, both white rhinos and black rhinos.
How many did we have before?
This country was accommodating close to 20,000 rhinos. Wow. I know of about 15 rhinos that were in Mogi Ranch. I found them in Uganda. The Mogi gave them out because you cannot keep them and there is no proper security. So that's why actually, personally, I have a problem with these private conservancies in the north.
Right. From
the Sorios or Pajeta, they are not serving Kenyans. I would say so. They're serving themselves.
Right.
And the security there, it will be very difficult even for the Minister of Interior to give security to somebody who doesn't need the security. But yet they accommodate our animals there. So the rhinos in this country, and this is not just this country, in Africa they are endangered, critically endangered. And this is because of their horns. And there is too much myth, too much disbelief information in them that the horns of a rhino, they can be able to heal or they have some mechanism. In fact, the scientists and the doctors have realized that the chemical that is found within the rhino horns is the same as what is found on our fingers, the keratins, and it has nothing. In fact, if we need to be having long nails, and then one can have those long nails.
And actually, let's focus a bit on that, because many don't quite understand why ivory trade has such a big market. You know, having done this for so long, what are some of the myths associated with the ivory for both, elephants as well as rhinos?
This is one. When I was walking from Mombasa to Nairobi, I posed like a buyer in Maungu. I wanted to understand this business well, and there is a lot that is not true. There is a lot of rumors. You know, people like, if you want to sell bananas, you sell these bananas are ripening after 2 hours. To woo people to come and buy, you know? So people here are like, there are people who comes to buy. They used to go, I don't know whether they're still buying. From Nairobi, per kilogram, they were buying at 25,000.
Per kilogram?
Per kilogram. But the guys from Mombasa were buying 10,000. And the other thing, what I wanted to find out was, how do you kill these elephants? They will use some piece of wood, you know, just put the nails here. They call it kiatu. When an elephant step on those sharp nails, you know, and the elephant drink too much water, 240 liters of water per day. So if they step on that, after a day or so, that would become septic. It cannot be able to step on that. That's like three-legged animal. So you expect
it becomes incapacitated.
Exactly. After 2-3 days or so, the elephant will just collapse, and then they remove that thing. So they're using something that you can even tell. When people say it's an organized crime, at some point I have doubts, because what you found when you look at this, and you can file from KW security, whenever they fight those animals, you fight them with, they've been actually hacked. There's no proper way. I remember last year but one, we lost 6 elephants. When we went there, we saw they were just hacked.
Right, I remember. I think I remember that story.
Yes. Yeah. So we are talking of our communities are just using some crooked ways. You know, and I want to take you back to the quail business. The same media as here, and the newspaper and everyone, we give attention to the quail business. And everybody in this country wanted to become a quail farmer. Then after all those quail birds, they matured and then they were now hatching. Where is the market? So we all killed the market and we killed the business. The same thing, there has been an issue of whereby so-and-so is arrested with the 5 kilogram valued at this money. We are sending a bad message to the community.
Right.
Even to our rangers. You can imagine a ranger here that a piece of ivory is 5 million. Do you think you, with all your good head, you are manning a piece of ivory, 6 million, and you are earning 6,000 shillings? So we are actually producing poachers by the message we pass.
Right.
So this is why you see the rumors, and you know what people say that in Europe, in China, 1 kilogram of ivory is this. I don't want to hear that. Because it's not true. We are just trying to fabricate news here and to make news to be news. But we are imagine those people we left in the village. I left them there, I saw them. Those people, they are struggling to sell anything that is sellable.
Right.
Now you've introduced that chameleon with the loads of horns is 5 million. That guy will not sleep looking for those chameleons. We must sell and produce good information. Why don't we tell them that those chameleons are helping us in one way or the other? And conservation doesn't have to be monetary. I mentioned earlier about the economic value and ethical value. We don't have to be paid like what our communities, you go down there. I would talk about them in Saburu that we should stop poaching, even in Pokot. Then they were like, tell us what we should do. We don't have, you cannot queue people to give them, there is no single time KWS or even the Ministry of Tourism will queue Kenyans, give 5,000, this one comes from tourism. There is no single time. It's the corrective. We must get this money in form of other development, other things. And there is the bursary that also comes from there. So this is what we need to pass the message that you as a poacher, you are only benefiting you as an individual. But you are denying your community an opportunity to have this elephant. Like now we'll be celebrating the Ahmed of Marsabit. This was the longest elephant with longest ivory or other tusk. And then he was one of the oldest animals, which he died in Marsabit, old age. People need to remember that there is too much information that we need to learn this. But when you kill an elephant as a single person, I'm very sorry if you see some of these poachers when they are being arrested. They are poor. Somebody who is value maybe 5,000 shillings.
Right. Looking
at him, he need to be shaved, he need to be washed. And then this is where all of us we want to go. When we give news, and this is a challenge, and I talked to this in the CNN, BBC, if we want to stop poaching in Africa, it is not that serious. We can stop it. But the amount of information, the way we package the information that the poachers were found in Garamba with the 500 kilogram valued at $6,000, $600,000. All poachers of East Africa will be going there.
Right. And, you know, there's something interesting that countries like Zimbabwe are doing. Zimbabwe has resorted to dehorning its rhinos in a bid to stop poaching. What are your thoughts on that decision? That's
a frustration move. Because I remember personally, when I worked in the state, I met the daughter of the outgoing president of America, Sasha, in her school in Sidwell. And she was like, if poachers are killing elephants because of their horn, why don't you cut them? That's another topic now. Why do we have elephants with tusk? Right. What is the value of tusk? Ivory belongs to elephants. The moment you detach it, that's a dead animal. Right. The tusk help elephants to break soils and get some minerals. They use those ones to socialize, to greet one another. Now, if you remove the horns from the rhinos, they will then become something different. They will not be African rhinos, you know? So that's a frustration move because they want to keep them. The other question that you can ask yourself, why are they keeping that small piece of ivory that they are cutting, that piece of iron they are cutting? Remember, Zimbabwe, they are in Appendix 1. That's another topic. Appendix 1 is a species that is, sorry, Appendix 2. Appendix 1 is when the species is threatened. Right. Like the Kenyan population of elephants and rhinos, they are in Appendix 1. But Zimbabwe, their population is in Appendix 2, 4 countries. Zimbabwe, Botswana, there is also South Africa and Namibia. So they are allowed to do anything they want by the CITES, which is very wrong anyway. So they are doing this is because they want to do business. Right. And that is not something that we can emulate. In fact, Kenya cannot even dare to do that, because to dehorn, the only thing that we dehorn today is what? Is cows. Because we either want to breed or there is no proper business for horns here. But the moment we begin dehorning rhinos, we are telling them that there is business here. And remember, we attract people. The Ministry of Tourism, through KWS, they attract tourists by those rhino horns.
Right.
So when you do that, you're out of business.
Right, and let me just take a comment here from George Minor at G Main. It says, a good show, but a correction. Rhinos are not the most endangered species in the country. I stand corrected, but maybe Jim could clarify that for us. So
they
they
are the most threatened
in
species.
The country?
Yes.
In the country, okay. All right, and as we wind up, talk to us about the future now of Elephant Neighbors Kenya. You have another walk from Nairobi to Marsabit.
Yeah.
How long is that?
That's going to take me 25 days.
25 days?
Yeah.
Wow.
And because I want to plan from Nairobi, we want to the remains of the Ahmeds are in national museums. And I would request Kenyans to visit national museums and learn more about them, other species that are there. Then from there, we'll walk all the way to Thika Road, and I'll be talking to the people up to Karatina.
What kind of talks do you have? You know, let's talk about a normal walk through Mombasa Road right now. What kind of talks? Do you stop strangers on the road? Do you go office to office, house to house? How do you do it?
A good question. One, with the prior planning, with the I mentioned earlier, we're working closely with the county commissioner. So we need to have all the sub-county administrator, just name them the chiefs. So when we are walking, we find people waiting for us, mainly centers. Those other that are bypassers, we have somebody in the vehicle with a loudspeaker talking, what is happening. And the other thing is, we give people, first of them, we give them facts. What I have learned, most of the Kenyans don't even know, and maybe I can ask you, how many elephants do you think we have in Kenya?
Honestly, I have no idea. I thought 11,000 was the maximum.
That was in one park. Yeah. So in the country, how many elephants do we have?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So this is what I pass. And then, you have to give facts and then show where we are and where we are headed.
Right. So how many elephants do we have?
We have less than 23,000 elephants.
In the whole country?
In the whole country. And this is a backdrop from nearly that 1,000 in 2011 and 2012.
Right. Okay. And
so that's one. The other thing I talk about is the impact of poaching. If we were to kill all these animals, what does that mean to us? And the other thing is, if we were to keep all these animals, what does that mean?
Right.
And then you as an individual, what I have been saying, citizen leadership. I'm creating you as an individual to know and to take responsibility. You have to take a collective responsibility. And then also by the fact that I work with the KWS, and people don't want to see KWS. KWS are only working for us. And we cannot work without them.
Right.
Whether they are bad or good, we have to work with them. However, we need support from the government, support from all the institutions to support them.
And just as we wind up very briefly, there's one more question from John Gidanga. He's asking, did the burning of ivory and rhino horns stockpile earlier this year have a major impact in deterring poachers?
Not poachers, market.
Right, okay.
And that's why you see now, the Chinese now, in fact, one of the things the Chinese would have done, they have nothing now coming. So they had to, it's like you want to add the business with a lot of diplomacy. There is nothing in the stock now. So you want to say, I have also declared. Because now Kenyans destroyed 105 tons, and several other countries are now following suit. So Chinese have no business, so they have to say. But it had nothing to do with the poachers.
Right.
Poachers we have to educate.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jim Nyamu, the founder and executive director of Elephant Neighbors Center here in Nairobi, talking to us about conserving elephants. And of course, he has a walk coming up from Nairobi to Marsabit that will take him about 25 days. Every volunteer, of course, interested in this walk can also get in contact with the Elephant Neighbors Center. We'll take a short break here on Morning Express. When we come back, we'll take a look at the top stories we are following for you this hour.